Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today we are painting the most important thing you should paint as a beginner to watercolor. And even if you're not a beginner and you haven't painted one before, it's super important to have this on hand anyway, so you should do it too. Today we are painting a color wheel, so let's jump right in. Okay, so to start, I'm just gonna go through my materials. Today I am using watercolor paper. This is just B watercolor paper, but you can use any paper that you'd like. You also don't have to do this with watercolor. You can use regular like tempera paint or pencil crayons or markers. You just won't be able to mix and blend. So I think it's really great if you're doing watercolor. You'll be able to mix your colors, but just grab any watercolor paper you have. I have my Winsor Professional watercolors on my palette. I will also be using my Princeton snap brush in a size 6. You're gonna need a pencil and an eraser, as well as a ruler, and then something circular to trace your circle with. Okay, so you see I have two different color wheels that we're gonna be doing today. So trace 2 circles onto your paper. It can be the same paper, it doesn't have to be 2 different ones. But that's the first thing you're gonna do is trace a circle. Now, for the first one, we're gonna do a very, very basic color wheel. This is something you can do with your kids. So we're just gonna be focusing on primary and secondary colors. Our next color wheel here, you're gonna be doing primary, secondary, and tertiary colors, and we will get into that, but let's start with the basics first. Okay, so once you have drawn your circle, you're gonna find the center of your circle, and you can always use a ruler if you really wanna be precise with it. And then you are going to slice your circle into 6 sections. So I like to start right down the middle. It's always the easiest. And then one off to the side like this. I put little guidelines beforehand so you don't have to watch me struggle to figure it out. And then right like this. Actually, that line could go over a bit more. Sometimes you need to erase and fix things and adjust, and that's okay. There we go. Okay, so there is our first color wheel outline. So our primary colors, if you're not familiar, are red, blue, and yellow. So you're gonna pick 3 of those colors. So I have a bunch of different reds and a couple different yellows and a bunch of different blues. The best for this, if you have it, if you don't worry, just use whatever you have. And the hues will definitely change based on what color you use, what color blue you use, what color red you use. It will change. The ones I find the best for this are ultramarine blue. It's the best I find for mixing. And then I have Winsor red here. And then I'm going to use cadmium yellow. Okay. Now, if you really want to get technical with it, the proper primary colors are actually magenta, cyan, and yellow. And it would work even better with magenta, especially for mixing a purple. So if your purple doesn't come out great, you could use magenta as well. It will kind of throw off some secondary colors, but I'm just going to try and stick to regular, what everyone kind of knows for this. So let's jump in. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is grab one of your primary colors and you're going to fill in one of the areas. Next, you're going to take your red. So I'm going to take my Winsor red, and I'm going to skip, leave one blank, and do the next one here. And then our last primary color is yellow. So leave another space blank, and there should be equal blank spaces in between, because that is where our secondary colors are going to go. Okay, so I'm gonna actually leave this to dry, so when we do our secondary colors, they don't bleed into these. So we'll come back when that's dry. Okay, now that it's dry, we can start doing the mixing, and this is the fun part. Now I'm gonna start off with the most tricky mixture, which is making purple, and that's with blue and red. Now, like I said before, our other technical primary colors are magenta and cyan, which is a blue, and yellow. And magenta and cyan make a really nice purple. So even ultramarine blue. So if you were to mix, here I'm gonna grab a little bit of blue and mix it with the magenta here, you'll see it makes a beautiful purple. That's the kind of purple you want. However, when you mix blue, let's grab a little bit, put it here, and a Winsor red like this, which is a bit more on the orangey side, it's hard to make a really nice purple, okay? It looks a little bit muddier. So if you really want to try and mix a purple, I would definitely suggest getting some sort of pink and blue. But for this, we're just going to be mixing what we have here. If you look at this red, it's really, really bright and vibrant, but it leans a bit more to the orangey side, which is making it a bit more brown. So if you want to even change up your red too, so I have this alizarin red, which is a bit darker. Let's see what happens when we mix that in the blue. Might make a bit more of a nicer purple. See? Yeah, that's a nice purple. So because this red is leaning more towards orange, it's turning our purple a bit brown. This one is darker and it's leaning a bit more towards blue, which is giving us a nicer purple. So if you're having a hard time mixing a nice purple, it's because of the red you're using, but don't worry, just put it on your color wheel anyway. But that's just kind of the explanation of why it may look a bit more muddy or brown. So for future reference, mix a nicer purple with either a pink or a darker red. So we could have actually used alizarin for this. You know what? I think I might just change it just for this purpose. Hold on. I just want to get this pure red. So if you look at this red on its own, it's a bit cooler, which means it just leans a bit more towards blue rather than this one leaning a bit more towards orange. So let's actually just change this one. We're gonna make it a darker red so we can mix some nicer colors. So if you're going to the store and you're trying to find some nice, basic colors to get, I would try and pick up the Winsor red, which is a really nice bright red, but also either a pink or a darker red like the alizarin red, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so once you've mixed your purple, which we're going to use the alizarin and the ultramarine, you are going to lay it in between the blue and the red. Now my red's a little bit wet, so trying not to touch it too much. I don't want it to bleed, but it can bleed if you want. It could look cool like that too. Totally up to you. Like that. Okay, so that's our first secondary color. So these first three are primary colors. Our secondary color is going to be the ones that you get from mixing the primary colors. Okay, so let's mix alizarin red with our cadmium yellow, and that will make orange. Now this is a bit more of a darker orange because we use the darker red. You will get a more bright, vibrant orange if you mix it with something like a Winsor red. I know it's a little confusing, but basically, depending on the shade of the color you're using, it is going to change the color that you mix together. Okay, so there we have orange. And then lastly, we are going to mix blue and yellow together, which you will get green. So just grab some yellow, mix it with your blue. And depending on, you want to try and get equal parts, okay? So make sure it's kind of equal because more blue you're gonna add, it'll be more of a blue-green. More yellow you add, it will be more of a yellow-green. And that's exactly what tertiary colors are. So that's what we're gonna get into next. So try and mix equal parts of primary colors to get your secondary colors. That's kind of the definition of a secondary color, is mixing equal parts of primary colors together. There we go. Okay, so there is our basic color wheel. We have our primary colors, which are blue, red, and yellow, and our secondary colors, which are purple, green, and orange. Okay, so our first one is done. Now we're gonna work on our other color wheel, which is going to get into tertiary colors. So again, trace your circle, find the center. This time we are gonna be cutting up our circle kind of like a clock, so 12 pieces. So let's start with going right down the center. And then you're gonna go right across. Then you're gonna wanna cut each of these quarters into 3s. So I have my guidelines. 1, 2, so 3 pieces on that side, 3 on this side. If they're not completely equal, don't worry about it. It's not a huge deal. Try and make it as best you can, but I don't even think mine are. 1. Of course, my family's so loud. And there you go. There is your color wheel outline. Okay, so let's start with our primary colors again. So I'm going to do blue. Pick one side to do blue. Doesn't matter where you put it because it's a wheel and you can always turn it. Okay. Then you're gonna skip 3, 1, 2, 3, do your next primary color. So let's get our alizarin red again. My dog is not behaving. Story of my life. Okay. Again, you're gonna skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and get your yellow. Okay. So again, same kind of thing. We have our primary colors, and now we're gonna add in our secondary colors, and our secondary colors are gonna go right in the middle pieces, right there. Right there, and right there. Okay, so if you already have your mixtures done, that's perfect. So let's grab our green, put it in the middle of blue and yellow. Grab your purple. If you need to make a bit more of each color, do it. Grab your purple, put it in the middle of blue and red. Again, try and make sure it's equal parts. I know it can be a little tricky, but for this, it's a little bit important. Mine's more on the darker side. Just gonna wipe some of that up so we can see it a bit better. Okay, and then grab your orange and put it in the middle of yellow and red. I wonder if you can hear my son. Probably. Like that. Okay, so we have the exact same thing as we did here. It's just spread out a bit more. Okay, so let's let that dry and then we will come back and do our next colors. Okay, so now that it's dry, we can start working on our tertiary colors. Now, a tertiary color is when you mix a primary and a secondary color together. So here we have blue, which is our primary color, and we have its secondary color, purple. When you mix these two together, you're gonna get a bluish purple. So it's a purple that's leaning more towards blue. So in order to do this, take your secondary color that you've already mixed here, and you're just gonna add a bit more blue to it. And you're just gonna throw it in there. So it's slightly, add a bit more red. It's slightly darker than the regular blue, has a tad bit of purple in it. And this color is just called bluish purple. Okay, so there is one of them. Okay, now you're gonna mix the primary color red with purple and you're gonna get a reddish purple. So you can just take that color mixture that you just did, the bluish purple, and add a bunch more red to it, okay? Like that, even a little bit of blue. And you're gonna get this really nice, like cherry red, kind of purpley color. Okay, and there is a reddish purple, or a purplish red, however you want to say it. Okay, so there's creating 3 different colors with just 2 primary colors. Okay, next, our primary color red and orange, mixing those together, you're gonna get a reddish orange. So let's take our alizarin red and just add a bit more orange, a bit more red to the orange, and then you're just gonna get a reddish orange. And if you want to label these too, you can definitely do that. Okay, then you're gonna mix the primary yellow with secondary orange. So again, you can just take that reddish orange that you did, add a bunch more yellow to it, so it's even lighter. And it's not yellow, it's a yellowy orange. Let me just make it even lighter. More on the yellow side. Okay. Okay. Then you are going to take your primary yellow and mix it with your secondary green. So let's take our cadmium yellow here and we're just gonna add a bunch of yellow to that green and you get this kind of limey yellow green. Like so, okay? And then last but not least, you're gonna take your primary blue, mix it with your secondary green to get a blue green. So we have our lime green here. We just need to add a bunch of blue to it. Just adding it to a little section there. And you get this nice kind of bluish green, like turquoisey color. And there you go. There is your color wheel with primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. Okay, so this is something super important, I think, for everyone to do, especially beginners. It kind of gives you a glimpse into how to mix colors, how the color wheel works, and a bit of color theory. So this is something super relaxing to do as well. Take some time. Do it. There's no wrong way to do it. If you don't have these exact colors that I had, you know, work with what you got and see what kind of mixtures you can come up with. If your red doesn't look exactly like this and it's a bit more on the orangey side and your purples aren't coming out great, that's okay. You know, maybe you can save up a little bit and buy a pink or a magenta or, you know, a darker red, but just work on what you have and just play around and have fun with it. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram and Facebook for even more. Have a great day, guys. Bye.